Well, we have a series on our hands, boys. Who will be going to the grand finals? I guess we have to play a third game.
Actually, we're into penalty shootouts now, mate. And it's going to be Prosper up to the spot first.
Oh god, not support.
No, I'm joking. It's coming home, though.
It's coming home.
No, yeah, I think this is going to be tough because, honestly, laning phases look 10 times better for DIABOLUS over the course of both of these games. And if DIABOLUS draft the same kind of way, Aurelion Sol's almost certainly going to get banned, 100%. But if DIABOLUS draft another kind of lane dominant, especially Flaxus on the top side, that worked out really well. I think Misfits have got some soul searching.
Well, let's jump straight into the picks and bans and find out if that soul will be a priority from Misfits. It does look like the Rakan gets banned out immediately, and there's the soul to follow. So instantly taking away some priority picks from DIABOLUS.
Oh, God, I'm just a prediction god right
Genius. Who could have predicted that? Oh, we are actually missing
everything.
Oh, it looks like we've dropped out of.
It's okay. We'll find out what DIABOLUS
find out.
We'll
just
Let's
have
talk
to
about this.
Suspense. There it is. The Zoe again, unsurprising. Obviously, a signature champ of Kenzuki. Things that are open. Graves, we haven't seen that much priority on it.
No.
Mundo actually just got banned away there. The Nocturne, which was banned away previously, and interesting because I felt like game one, Afflicted okay. He actually didn't die at once, and even though DIABOLUS had a dominant early game on a tank on this Sejuani. Game 2, they put him on a carry, didn't perform, but clearly they're still confident in their boy.
Nocturne is far easier to impact lanes with than Nidalee, though, especially post 6. You just hit your ultimate and go in. I mean, obviously he had some hotfix nerfs last night, so he's going to be slightly lower power level, but I mean, if there is a lane that Misfits are going to be looking to impact, you just click R, and you know, and it should be easier to have that impact as a Nocturne than it is compared to Nidalee, just because Nidalee requires a bit more positioning, a bit more setup.
DIABOLUS instantly snipe away this very much pressured bot lane that I guess Misfits have really been prioritizing over this the course of this series. So changes things up. With
the Rakan ban, it's probably just the strongest duo bot lane in the game right now. So
I think there are options to match up for it, but I think not as safe. I think Lucian Braum does the job well. They both have mobility. They both have a lot of damage and burst. Interesting. Yeah, this is the interesting. This could be a flex. We have seen Crispy play this.
Yep, in the bot lane.
It's not the most amazing thing into Lucian Braum, just outscale them heavily, and there isn't too much potential to get CC'd. I mean, you see the Braum stun come in. If you don't pool it, you are trolling. So it does give the option though for this as a flex.
And I think that's something that's really important to drafts in this current meta, having those flex options. It does make drafting hard because Vladimir can go into ultimately 3 positions across the map right now.
I mean 4 if you're being really spicy.
Yeah, real spicy. You throw him in the jungle maybe.
Yeah, why not?
Sejuani going to be locked in. Actually, this is DIABOLUS. Looks like they're gearing up for just a solid team fight style composition here. And again, it's something that worked so well for them in the previous game, just had a good 5v5. I mean, to be honest, they won split push and won 5v5 in that game.
Yeah, I mean, because the two big things here is you have a counter pick as you're on red side.
Yep.
As well as that, you know that you have the stronger early game based on the past 2 games.
Yep.
You know that if you have a comp that's easy to execute late game, as you just shown, you can do it, and you have the momentum. So I think it makes a lot of sense to go for this safer team comp.
Yeah.
And not do anything too fancy. You don't need to. You're in the home stretch here.
Misfits banning away the Rise. They banned away the Soul already. We're going to see what Zeph has up his sleeve as a third roaming champion. I mean, what are we expecting, considering that he likes to have that pressure?
I mean, Orianna works quite well here. Lost Chapter, once you get that, you can start to shove in. You won't roam as much, but it does fit the composition quite well. But anything that seemingly what Zeph likes is something that can shove between levels 5 and 8. Or start to shove between levels 5 and 8, and then he can open up the map roaming with NG. So
I think he has a lot of options. I think it will be something you'd be happy to blind, as I think it's very likely they want to leave Flaxus' counter pick to last.
The Irelia ban as well makes me feel like it's going to be a control kind of low mobility mage as well that has that shove potential.
Something that hasn't been banned away yet. Has been left open throughout is Yasuo. Did get slight indirect buffs with the changes to Brawler's Glove, so that could come out potentially as a mid or top option. Right now it's in the Cassiopeia, so for me that sort of says you're going to have to put that Vladimir bot lane. It's a pretty bad matchup mid lane, Cassiopeia into Vlad. She will just bully him out in the early levels. So
and top lane, if they now make it obvious, exactly.
Yeah, which is risky. So risky. I think we should expect to see the Vladimir go in the bot lane. We have seen Crispy play it before. The question is, what do you put in the Cassiopeia? And what do you blind top lane when, I mean, there's potentially soon come up, but actually...
Ooh. Kai'Sa gets locked in, so
Well, let's hold our horses about where everything's going just yet, because we need to wait to see how the composition rounds out. But I have a feel, because it's Nocturne, this is going to be Kai'Sa bot. You wouldn't play a Nocturne jungle if you're trying to funnel a Kai'Sa in mid lane. So it is likely either going to be Vlad mid or Vlad top. It feels like risky. I mean, it's a bad matchup for Vlad in the mid lane, I think, especially early on.
I've seen it before, and if you don't punish, you can snowball heavily in reverse. So
this is really odd now for Misfits, because both Vlad and Yasuo can flex to mid and top. So Shikari does play a mean Yasuo though, right? I have seen Shikari play Yasuo.
And I think this frees up their options, because technically it's not a blind since it's a flex.
Yeah.
The difficulty is if something's picked by DIABOLUS, which is good into both. I don't think necessarily Camille's it though. I mean, it's something that scales well, but it's not something that's going to bully either out massively.
I feel like Camille and Cassio are both fine into Vlad though, so it means that one of those lanes is going to have a decent matchup into Vlad.
Right.
Yeah. I think
Camille's better into Vlad than it is into Yasuo.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think Yasuo is pretty strong in this patch, and it looks like Kenzuki is going to play at mid. So, I mean, Vladimir can scale up against Camille. I think he does actually win the late game if it gets super late, 5-6 items. But there's still that mid-game spike point. You might have some threat, but I think early you should be fine. Mid lane is going to be the feisty one, though. Lots of pressure from this Sejuani, potentially. And then it'd be interesting to see what Afflict does once he gets to level 6.
Well, it feels like I feel like this will transition to a 1-3-1 for Misfits, because you want a Vladimir and you want a Yasuo in the side lanes, because realistically the Alistar is the only person you're going to combo with in a team fight. It's a good combo to have on your side, obviously, but you haven't got multiple options to do it. And obviously we know that Yasuo loves 1v1 matchups, and he'll play well, I think, into Camille later on as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I think he destroys that matchup if they're even.
If they're absolutely. So I think this can go 1-3-1 for Yasuo if he wants to. This is why the Aurelia ban came through, though, because Cassio sucks against Aurelia. Like, she'll get destroyed by Aurelia in that laning phase. Especially because Cassio is just a low mobility mage, mage that gets struggles, and that's why if Yasuo goes aggressive onto Cassiopeia, it can be difficult. That's why the exhaust is there.
Something coming out from Yasuo that I think is actually really smart is we often see mid laners take cleanse into Sejuani. That's fairly standard, but for Yasuo, not so much, because you have the potential to win wall. I feel like this is sort of a throwback to what Zeds used to do a couple of metas ago, where they would take exhaust instead of ignite with the intention that they expected the enemy to take exhaust themselves. I mean, take cleanse instead of ignite, sorry. So if Cassiopeia does exhaust the Yasuo, he can cleanse it instantly, continue his DPS, and remove that debuff. So potential there to continue and not get locked down, particularly when there's so much CC on the side of DIABOLUS as well.
Really interesting stuff coming out. It's an actual draft back and forth from these guys, trying to counter each other out. I mean, do we feel like there's a clear winner coming through from these guys? Because clearly in game 1, it was DIABOLUS' draft that seemed the better, but Misfits were able to take it. In game 2, we knew that DIABOLUS would scale better, and winning the early game meant that they just outright won it.
So while there's not strictly a front line for Misfits, I think Windwall shuts down so much in a team fight. A well-placed Windwall can win a team fight for Misfits if they place it correctly. I don't think they're going to want a team fight with the composition that they have. Like, they are probably much better placed just running Vlad and Yasuo in side lanes and running a 1-3-1, looking to just constantly disengage. Although that doesn't really suit Nocturne very well, but if that's the way you want to play it, I think Nocturne can get those solo lanes snowballing. You run into a 1-3-1 and you crush. You try and match Yasuo with Camille, you crush that, and then Vladimir, once he gets to a certain point in the game, should be able to trade nicely against the Cassio, and Cassio sucks in the side lane anyway, really, because you wanted to have her mid lane to clear waves. So I think if Misfits can roll those solo lanes and get them into a position in the mid game where they're ahead, they can transition to a 1-3-1, and I think they'll do well. But evidence shows us that they don't do well in the early laning phase. DIABOLUS generally tend to get their advantages, and if Camille, who I think strictly does well against Vladimir, especially early on, can get rolling, that might shut down what Misfits want to do.
I think one thing is that although they don't have a true front line, I think the champions they do have sort of have pseudo tankiness in the sense that, you know, Yasuo has his Windwall, Vlad has his pool, Kai'Sa has her invisibility and her ultimate, and then on top of that, the Nocturne's going to put the darkness down. I think that in a straight fight where you're hitting each other's front lines, obviously Misfits will get smashed, but I don't think that they're ever going to want to set up for that. And this is where I feel like there's a lot more threat like the first game, where if DIABOLUS do mess up on a Baron, they can get punished by that. There's a lot of opportunity to get on them and shut them down. And as well, unlike game 2, where they had the scaling advantage, I feel like there's going to be a lot more pressure on DIABOLUS, because if they just sit there in the mid game and don't do anything,
they're going to get smashed late game.
Yeah,
they're going to get absolutely torn apart.
I think it's a better draft from Misfits to sort of equalize the gap between the first and second game. It's definitely going to be a close one.
I want to get predictions because it's our first game 3. Scoundrel very quickly.
I think if this goes anywhere past 30 minutes, Misfits are just going to tear Diabolus a new one. So I'm going to go for Misfits personally. I think I'm going to favour them here.
I'm going to go with Misfits as well. I think there isn't quite as many early game tools for Diabolus to punish, and they don't have the globals that they had last game. You know, they constantly had this Tom Kenshall. They had a super Roman mid laner, which, you know, they don't really have here. So I think there's a lot more potential for Misfits to survive the early game and scale up.
We'd love to hear from you guys as well. Make sure you use that hashtag ForgeChampions1 to get your discussion points in. Who do you think is going to take this first of the semi-finals? Who's going through to tomorrow's scoring stage grand finals? You'll have to find out. So we do jump over onto the Summoner's Rift in just a bit for this very last matchup of the semi-finals. It is going to be Misfits versus Diabolus.
Yeah, there's a shopkeeper. Oh, there's Vlad, chill now. Blood King, I think that's Bloodlord Vlad. I can't remember the name of the skin.
I'm glad that this is the analysis we get. Just coming straight onto the rift.
I'm gonna say, oh, looks like we've got the yellow screen bug. Woo! Unfortunate. Yeah, being hit with a quick pause.
The yellow screen bug.
It's like the grey screen bug. I hear you keep getting that one, Dowsey. Looks like it's going back to us.
Welcome back.
Oh,
well,
sorry.
You didn't have a headset on.
Next time, I'll grab your leg.
Yeah,
okay.
I feel like I could have had.
It's hard for us to say.
I feel like you could have said, and we'll be coming back to the desk in just a minute, and the next Scoundrel would have put his headset on and would have been ready for this situation.
Okay, go back. Restart.
Okay, let's start again.
Right, yep. And we'll be going back to the desk in just a minute. There we go.
Oh, hey guys, yeah, the pause. Oh,
it's too late. We're going back to game. Thanks for that, Scoundrel. Let's see. Misfits versus Diabolus here. Zeph going to be performing on this Cassiopeia. Yasuo versus Cassiopeia. Any thoughts you want to throw into the mix?
I think if you miss your Q as Cassiopeia, you're going to get punished very hard. I mean, really, as Cassiopeia, I mean, one disadvantage is you don't have the TP here because you felt you need to run the exhaust. Understandable. But until you have that pool, even if you get a good trade, like look, chunking down Kenzuki slightly, but look how much mana you've used already. Quarter of your mana gone for what, like...
Oh, dear, okay.
I mean, the aggression. I like the aggression. Not finding the marks. And, I mean, this is the issue I thought there could be for the side of Diabolus, is they don't have as clear tools with which they can sort of snowball this early game. Obviously, being a melee champion mid lane, Yasuo's just going to AFK. Walk around, the little green cowboy there. And Diabolus stealing away the enemy's blue buff. Obviously, Misfits are aware of that, as they did just run into Kenzuki. So, going to be a steal away from Afflict as well. But smart move from Zeph. He's going to put a ward down just to counteract that. And actually, it seems Afflict...
Oh, okay. Diabolus actually do not want to do this, yeah.
Oh, that was smart. So, Afflict walked up, placed the ward down, and then he went, you know, I'll do it later. And then he picks up the Scuttle first. So, he forced the move. And now, because Diabolus' bot lane moved, because Diabolus' mid lane moved, the lanes are pushed in. So now, Misfits bot and mid are free to move in and assist him, and he gets his blue for free.
Very nice stuff. Blackish, though, in the top side, putting pressure onto Shikari, still level 1. Up in the top side. We'll have to see if he can continue to pressure down. Level 2 comes through. You would assume that he might take that pull just for the safety against the hook shot. But right now, Misfits in the jungle. Yeah, I mean, slow. Here comes the hook shot, dumping on in, but there it is, the pull.
This is one of the problems with the Camille is that, yes, he's got an advantage over the Vlad level 1, 2, 3, but it's not enough to punish him really hard. And so these slight advantages, although nice, not going to be hugely impactful for Flaxius here, at least compared to the leads he got in the other games, particularly on the Aatrox. And yeah, Prospero doing smart just to move up and assist Afflict to secure that Gromp. Looks like... I mean, this is the issue, is that NG, he cleared out the enemy blue, but then he didn't clear out the rest of the jungle, so now he's wanting to pick up that himself, just because he didn't have much options. But actually, it looks like they're going for a roam top already, this early in the game. Could be risky when Vlad has his pool available.
There it is, pool has been used. Flakish very low, potentially baiting on in. Here come the minions as well, and the rest are going to move in. NG to tank up this turret, does jump in, knocks him up, the flash gets away. Can Zeph get the damage down? Yes, he can! First blood will be there for Flakish. And everyone gets out alive.
Yeah, just really smart from Flaxius. He knows every single time he hook shots in, Shikari's going to pull away, and without his pull, he is very vulnerable to a dive. You've now forced his TP, you've given a kill over to this Camille, and given us a CS lead. This is what you need if you want to snowball the early game.
Zeph gets cut off here by the Yasuo. Kenzuki says, no, you are not coming back to lane. With no teleport, that means he's going to miss out on a huge amount of CS to this tower.
Yeah, and this is the difference between playing a Cassiopeia and playing a roaming mid laner like Aurelion Sol. You get punished much more heavily for it.
He's still caught out. Now finally back calling. That's a lot of CS that's going to be missing. Kenzuki has just won this lane.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is the sort of snowball you want from a Yasuo, especially when your component items are so much cheaper. Last patch, or even earlier this patch, we saw Berserker Greaves rush from Yasuo because of how costly Brawler's Glove was, but it's now been reduced to 400 gold, so potential to see an early Zeal come out, but again, Zeal's still not the most cost-efficient item compared to what it used to be.
Yeah, of course, like you mentioned, the Zeal's cost hasn't been changed, it's just that Brawlers. Flackish continuing to pressure down Shikari.
It's just the power of the Sheen. Every time you go for a trade, you proc the Sheen, you get a big amount of burst. Shikari wants to sustain up, but you can't really sustain against this much burst, especially when you need to be in range of Camille to lifesteal, or at least the wave. Well, spell vamp.
Whilst the CS lead isn't quite there. Oh, never mind. Prospect diving on in. Cookie going to be engaged on Crisberg, though. Does he give it away? Yeah, he does. Oh, but the stun from Anthrax, and that's going to be the kill going on over to Cookie. Beautiful flash coming out of Anthrax. Prospect, I think, should be safe under the tower. Yeah. I'm going to put down the trample just to make sure, but wow. Great stuff coming out of Diabolus.
Strong 2v2 from them, and it shows the power of this Braum Lucian, particularly into a more scaling lane with the Kai'Sa, and I think they saw the opportunity to the all-in and just didn't respect the power of the Braum Lucian, and Crisberg punished. Which, again, we saw this last game. Inconsistency compared to someone who was a standout player in the last bit. And Prospect might have actually been overextended here.
No flash on the cow. Let's see what Anthrax can do. Trying to chase him down, but doesn't have the movement speed really to continuously push. There's nothing going to happen.
No,
it's just happening again. I mean,
Flick is there.
Yeah, Flick is here, but what can he do? The ultimatum's down, and Flick now exhausted under tower. Resetting the aggro, they can just give it over to the... Oh, no, Zeph. Uh-oh. I mean, it is what it is. It's okay. Cookie fighting Crisberg. Prospect gets stunned on up. The Alistair may make a tasty treat, and he does. Beef tonight for Cookie, and Crisberg now tries to run away.
I mean, just seems like over-aggression. You lost a 2v2 before. You go for it again with this huge minion wave. Like, I understand the mentality that you want to earn back the mistake you made, but this isn't the way to do it. And Misfits is getting punished massively in this early game. We said there's not as much potential for Diabolus to snowball, but it just seems like they are so much superior in the laner phase, irrespective of what champions they're playing on.
Absolutely incredible stuff coming out of Diabolus. Kills across the board. It's 5-1. Here's going to be the recall stopped up there. Crisberg able to find the missile onto Cookie.
A small consolidation prize. We're actually seeing the Berserk Greaves come out early on from these two. But actually seen Shikari covering the mid lane just now. And I mean, this is difficulty. You're so far behind on this Vladimir. You just need to pick up as much CS as possible. We talked about how in the late game, the Vlad does fine against and even can actually win against the Camille. But when you're this far behind, you're going to have such a difficult earlier mid game just trying to survive.
I love the fact that as we were talking about Vladimir farming up in the mid lane, Flackish pops out the missing pings. He's like, top lane's missing, guys! Don't know where he is.
Yep, well, he was just farming in the mid lane. If you're wondering.
Very much clearly on the map.
I mean, this looks bad, and it is pretty bad for Misfits, but this isn't as bad as last game, because there is still that scaling potential coming out from Misfits.
And we have the Nocturne now hitting level 6. This is the moment where Misfits have that paranoia available to try and turn things in their tide. I'll have to see where they do decide to use it. Mid lane potentially could be turned around into a counter gank with the positioning from NG, who's level 5.
Yeah, I mean, you pick this Nocturne for his ultimate, and you measure the success of a Nocturne on how much impact each ultimate makes. So the first one, you really want to make something happen, especially when you're so far behind already. So, gotta see where Afflict will take it to. Potential to go mid. Good option to punish his Cassiopeia, but Flash still available and the stopwatch as well, so could be a tricky one.
Yeah, and you know, NG's spotted out the Nocturne, knows exactly where he is on the map. Going to have a fairly good idea where he has to be. The ultimatum is ready for Flackish if he does want to decide to lay it down onto Shikari. Clearly, don't want to do it too early against the Vladimir. We'll continue this poking game that he's on.
Yeah, I mean, it's still difficult. I mean, we said that Camille's going to do fine in this 1v1 when she gets a lead, which she has, and she is doing great.
Here we go. Ultimate. Ready for Afflict if Flackish steps a little bit too far. Yeah, it's almost a bait.
You want him to use his hook shot. That's when you go in. And he has been using it freely here, so interesting to see if he goes for it again, but...
Here it is. Comes on in. The paranoia is laid down. Ultimated onto Shikari. Now I'm going to walk away. NG's roaming up. Level 6 as well. Doesn't have sight coming in. The stun connects, and oh, that's going to be a dead Nocturne, you would feel. Afflict goes down. In the bot lane, it's Prosper losing his life as well. Diabolus strike 2 into the hearts of Misfits, and everything is falling apart.
I mean, honestly, Misfits just look a mess. They're falling apart in every lane in the game, and Crispig might be caught out here as well. Does have his ult available. Does manage to survive there, but still, Prosper dying twice. 2v2 in the bot lane. I mean, the first paranoia from Afflict ends up giving a kill over to this Camille as well. I mean, we said they have late game potential, but they're not going to get there.
They're not going to get there at this rate. Misfits currently on the Summoner's Rift, being given their first loss so far of the Forge of Champions, not dealing with it well. We talked about the commitment that Diabolus has put into their team. You know, all of them living in the same house. Potentially Kenzuki can do something. Zeph, oh, it's going to be the turnaround. Cleanse comes out. Kenzuki's now on the run. Win War to try and stop it up. Flash and everything. Going to respect the ultimate that can come out, but oh, it's in the top lane. Shikari's in trouble once more. Hookshot stuns. Flackish just doing so much damage. And back to that commitment from Diabolus. All 5 members in a team house in Manchester clearly wanting to take this Forge of Champions League seriously. Flackish looking for a new story to write in the top lane as well.
Yeah, they're going to be partying hard tonight in the Diabolus house if they end up continuing this trajectory and winning this game, because it's looking dire already for Misfits. It's not just the fact that they're behind, it's the fact that a lot of their players look a mess right now.
Let's have a look at that. Kill on the top side, the paranoia comes through, but energy is just so close.
Oh, actually huge mistake there. Because of the ultimate from Camille, Afflict doesn't get the fear down onto it and actually fears a minion. Massive misplay, and then it's picked up off the backside because of no flash being available.
It's not the way you want it to go, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it happen before. It is difficult, especially when the Camille goes untargetable to land that fear, but that is not the situation you want to happen on your first ult.
It's an outplay coming through with that ultimatum. 7-1, 4,000 roughly in the lead here for Diabolus. Looking for that first tower. It's a little bit slow based on their normal standards, but maybe they can collapse here onto the Diabolus spot lane. Kensuke certainly wanted to get into range, but Prosper didn't want to go for it. Had the flash available, but just didn't feel it was worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, the enemy bot lane has flashes as well, so huge overcommitment. I mean, huge commitment, and then the chance that they just disengage, but you give up pressure mid in return for this, and it just feels like Misfits are already grasping for straws.
NG expecting a gank in the mid lane. Not going to come out just yet from Afflict. Clearly NG's all over Afflict's jungle pathing right now, knows exactly where this Nocturne wants to be roaming with the paranoia, and has been trying to get himself into position to counter it.
Yeah, I mean, that was the power of that top lane counter gank, is that if you know where the Nocturne's going to go, that's his advantage, is that he can dash in from a long distance, he can make it a numbers advantage, but because Diabolus are so far ahead, if Sejuani predicts where he's going to be and counter ganks, he's going to punish hard. It looks like he's turning up bot lane for his next ult, but on the top side of the map, they've lost first tower, they're losing the Rift Tile, so this has to go well bot lane, or the game's doomed.
Afflict's currently hanging out by tower, and Diabolus' bot lane playing safe like we have characterized them in the past. Not giving the opportunity just yet. Maybe the tower dive comes through if Misfits are desperate. Kenzuki also roaming down, but nothing comes from it. With Misfits hearing the fact that the Rift Herald has gone, they now may potentially go for this Drake, just try and get themselves that consolation prize, but here it is in the mid lane. Oh, the wind wall blocks up the Sejuani ult, but can Kenzuki get out of it? Teleport coming through from Cookie. It's a 4-man gank in the mid lane. A 3-man ultimate, but it doesn't get you out. Kenzuki goes down, and now Rift Herald launched into the mid lane. It's a 5-man push coming out of Diabolus.
Yeah, I love the commitment from Diabolus. The last lane doing well was this Yasuo. I even had a CS lead, but you're now getting punished heavily, and Diabolus aren't letting you stall this game out until you have a scaling advantage. They're punishing, and it looks like they're going to get 2 towers mid here. unless Misfits can stop them. Nah, don't think they're going to be able to.
Crossfair gets caught out in the Hextech ultimatum, trying to run away, but he cannot. Bit of a misuse from the Cassiopeia ult from Zeph. Potentially won't mean nothing here, as that mid lane tower goes down. Diabolus now able to backport. So much gold in their pockets.
Yeah, huge spend here. I mean, Camille already has the Triforce before recalling. Incredibly strong. Hard game for Misfits. They really need to find massive windows to stall this game out, or find something in return before they're going to have even slight chance of getting back in this game. Yeah, and looks like Misfits, they cleared a pink ward. That's a consolidation prize.
That's pretty good.
2 pink wards, second one coming through. Again, I mean, it's just such a disadvantaged position to be in. And, I mean, they're just going to go back to normal lanes. They're just playing in the defensive. The longer this stalls out, the better. But, you know, we are seeing the replay top on the bot side. Flax just goes aggressive from Prosper. Prosper knocks him away, but the whole team is there. Ult is pop, but that damage reduction is irrelevant against 5 members of Diabolus.
That's very true. Diabolus right now in the driver's seat with 7,000 gold in the lead. We'll have to see where they do decide to take it. 5 minutes before that Baron spawns, so clearly not going to be too much of an objective. That bot lane tower is low. You can see the pings already on your map coming through from them, so you can see that that will be a target. There's an Ocean Drake that they can pick up as well. Cassiopeia will rip through it very quickly when they do decide to commit men towards that Drake area.
Like
but
they're interested.
I mean, Diabolus haven't shown too much of an interest in it, and with such a big wave in the bot side, maybe they just decide to try and hard push down onto this tier 2 tower.
Yeah, potential to dive here, a real big threat when they already have so much bulkiness on the side of Diabolus. But Misfits expect this, and they are waiting in the wings. TP flank potential to come out from Shikari as well.
Blackish roaming down is going to come through. Here's the engage. That's just a completely dead Chrisberg. The paranoia will not stop the facts. Now, with this tower under siege, Diabolus going to get it for free. Nothing that Misfits can do.
It's brutalized. I mean, Chrisberg had his flash, had his ult. Frostbite was available.
In trouble as well.
They just got rolled over. It seems like Misfits have already checked out this game and given up because they're just getting murdered and they're not really objecting to anything Diabolus does.
Nope, NG going to tank the tower up. Doesn't even care. He's a big tanky Sejuani. Windwall, of course, stopping up some of the damage coming out from the Diabolus squad. Oh, it's a big 4-man engage. Oh, it's only 3. Can they turn it around? It is going to be Kenzuki stunned up on the backside, cleansing it out, trying to find the kills, trying to go to NG, finds it. That's 2 kills for the Yasuo, and they've got a 3rd as well for Chrisberg. Wow, they turned that fight around very quickly from the engage from Prosper.
Yeah, just as I was saying, they've given up. Clearly, they haven't. Huge knock-up from Prosper with a flash engage. Follow-up from Kenzuki's there, and it was so close to him going down, but he managed just to clean up. And we talked about how far behind they are. That's still the case. But that is what they need to have some life in this game and to try and make a comeback.
They brought Kenzuki onto the team to shore up their mid lane after Special got promoted to the EU LCS sub-bench. We'll have to see if Misfits can continue using this Yasuo in such style. Such a greatly timed engage from Prosper.
Huge flash knock-up, and I believe he gets, I think it was 4. We'll see here in a second.
It was so close. It was either 4 or 3. Definitely felt like it was 4 at the time.
So he goes in there. Yep, gets all 4. Yasuo ult comes into the 2 primary targets, the carries. Zhonya's from Zeph buys time, and then great cleanse again from Kenzuki here. Removes the CC and just able to get enough damage onto Kuki, and even picks up NG off the backside. Just clean from Misfits, considering they are at such a goal deficit and still managed to win a team fight.
Incredible stuff. Never count Misfits out of fight is what we're learning today. In game 1, a Baron steal into an ace turned game 1 into victory for them. Here in game 3, they are down by a whopping 7,000 gold, but able to pull off team fights like that. Kenzuki clearly going to be the one that Misfits look to try and shore up their team.
Yeah, I think this shows that this isn't just Misfits playing bad. I mean, I'm not saying that was only the case when XL played Eminem, but XL definitely underperformed. It just feels like Diabolus are so much more dominant in the early game. Misfits still have excellent team fight and have had some good macro play, but just the early game is so fundamentally weak. They're just getting murdered by Diabolus before that happens.
Getting to a very interesting spot as well for Chrisberg, who's had a bit of a rough game. Almost got the Nash's Tooth completed. Going to have that 2-item spike for the Kaiser. A little bit late, but still, it's a very important time for Misfits. Will help them feel a little bit more confident in their team fight.
Better late than never. Yep, looks like Diabolus gonna put pressure on the top side of the map, which makes sense. A minute away from Baron, you want to start focusing vision control onto this blue side. And potentially looking for any picks that can come their way. But Flashes could be overextended here.
No.
Does hook shot away very quickly. Knew the possibility of being punished there. Did have a ward though. Yeah, being spotted out, so that'll get cleared. I think you sort of sense that when the Sejuani just randomly sidesteps your abilities with no vision, you have to think maybe there is some vision, or maybe he's scripting. Looks like it was the first one. Was a ward there.
It's one of the two.
Yeah. It's 50-50. It's one or the other.
30 seconds until the Baron joins us here, and Diabolus definitely learnt their lesson from game 1. In the second of the series, really just waiting it out.
This one's different for me because they have a lot of DPS on the Baron, the Lucian, and the Cassiopeia.
Right. And
they also have the scaling disadvantage that they had in game 1. So I don't think they're as free as they were in game 2 just to chill around the mid game.
Blackish, flashing forward. Tech ultimatum Shikari with the Zhonya's Hourglass trying to find time, but there will be none. Paranoid comes in, it's another fight in the jungle, and it looks like it is just going to be Prosper losing his life. In fact, it's flicked. They're turning it around though. Kanzuki with the ultimate finds one, looks for the second. NG in trouble. Chrisberg finds the kill, and now it's going to be Flackish in the middle of nowhere, trying to run away from this Yasuo. Gets stopped up with the tornado, but doesn't look like they want to re-engage now that Zeph is in the team fight. All in all, it's a 2 for 2. Which I think is pretty good, considering the fact that Shikari went down solo.
Yeah, I think that's amazing for Misfits. And I think it shows the power of this Yasuo and this Kai'Sa as they get into the late game. There's so much sustained damage from them. If you don't deal with them straight away, they will murder everyone on your team. Big factor as well, Zeph not being in that team fight, who is on the side of Diabolus, their matching scaling advantage.
Here's that replay coming through at the beginning
of that fight.
A flick
caught out, pops his ult just to buy some time. But you see he is caught out in a position where he's not going to do very much at all, but all the CC is burnt onto him. Prospect comes in, good knock up onto 2, sets up Kanzuki, and the wind wall dissuades so much of Cookie's damage. They're able to start pumping damage into everyone who's close, into Sejuani. And the thing is, Flax just jumps onto Kanzuki, but he's not actually strong enough just to auto-attack him to death, especially when Prospect's cooldowns are coming back up, so has to disengage as well. This doesn't look like a team who are 7k goal behind.
You wouldn't think it. And currently that gold lead is still sitting even more so in Diabolus' favor. But now we have that Nash's 2 finish for the Kai'Sa. We have Kanzuki starting to get to a point where he just becomes scarier and scarier. The double BF sword in inventory.
I think the big thing is, if you look at where the goal difference is, it's so much of it is on the top lane. Yep. I mean, Vladimir just has that Zhonya's compared to 2.5 items coming out from Camille. But on the other side of the map, you know, Chrisberg actually has more items than Cookie. Kanzuki's closing in on his second item. It's not terrible, you know. It's just the Vladimir's issue, and I think that's why when he was taken out of the fight early, it wasn't really much of a factor onto how well they were going to team fight.
May happen again. Does look like Diabolus are waiting in the lurks. Of course, that Baron gets spotted out with the Oracle. No shenanigans going to come out from Diabolus here, as Misfits going to be very patient here. Chrisberg moving into the jungle to secure the red buff. Has to be a little bit careful, based on the fact that Flackish
they're going to start 2 in the Baron.
2 in the Baron, yeah. Of course, Cassiopeia's damage is huge, and it's just going to be Flackish's job to stop them from noticing.
He's fine with that. TP is available from the bot and AD carry, so they could go contest it, but it just seems like they're not aware. They have caught on now. They're going to TP
Crosshair's here. Kanzuki's here as well. It's too late, you say, but they're going in for the ultimate. Here it is, Kanzuki looking for everything. Going in. It is going to be this kind of secure coming out of NG. Kanzuki flashing away. Cookie to follow over. He does find the kill there. Does look like Misfits just too late to the party. Good attempt, though.
Why didn't Chrisberg TP? Chrisberg had TP and he didn't come. They could have cleaned it up if he was there. I feel like that's such a misplay from the side of Misfits.
What could he TP to? There's a control ward in
the
inventory.
Everyone else in the TP and TP'd. Everyone else in the team TP'd. Shikari TP'd. I mean, okay, not everyone else, but Shikari TP'd and came in.
Everyone else had teleport.
Everyone else was there. Like, what? It seems like such a big mistake that you don't turn up as well. Shikari's TP came in. You should have TP'd at the same time because it was inches. Diabolus only just made it out of there. but the difference is huge. They've now secured this Baron buff. They're now even further ahead, and they actually got they got shutdown gold onto Kenzuki as well, which was their shining light in this.
Let's have a look at how this fight did go down, and potentially
so you can see the TP coming in there from Prospect, and I feel like there's no reason for Crispig not to be coming as well, because if you look at how close his team fight is, Kenzuki goes in, he tries to get the damage them onto NG when he wants to shut down his smite, but isn't able to find it, and he gets everyone so low, but he quickly realizes he's outnumbered and has to flash out. If Crispig was there, that would have been a team fight for them. I completely believe it. And he would have been in the pit as well, based on the fact that Shikari was there. Crispig potentially not a believer in that moment, and hesitation is a killer in League of Legends. DIABOLUS now with the Baron to push down the mid lane, as it is going to be Flackish pressured, as Prospect will make sure he is fine. But here it is, the 4-man squad into the mid lane. 2 members up top, and there's no way they can get down here to stop this inhibitor from falling. And in fact, Prospect just is going to lose his life by the looks of it. Very low. But he might just get picked up by the rest of the team.
Boop, boop, boop. There it is, 1 down. Now it's going to be Shikari in trouble. Paranoia to come through, but I mean, what's it going to do? There's a Guardian Angel on Flackish. Shikari is surrounded. 2 down for Misfits. It's not going to stop there.
Just complete misplay. I mean, I understand the feeling that Prospect wanted to protect his top laner, but Shikari shouldn't have been that pushed up, and Prospect definitely shouldn't have been there either, and he just dies without even using his ult.
Prospect is one of the most important pieces to Kenzuki's success on this team. We'll have to see. As he respawns, can they do anything? There's a Sejuani. Crispig, where did he go? Kenzuki's in the middle of the fight. Deleted. Afflict going to be following the same suit. Deleted. And now it's just Prospect stunned up under the tower. DIABOLUS looking so clean here. Absolutely no answer from Misfits.
Just absolutely devastating. It didn't even look like... I mean, it just went from, we got the Baron, the game's now over. They've amped it up, and it looks like they're just going to close the game out here.
It is going to be DIABOLUS looking for the game win, as Prospect gets taken on down in his own base, and Cookie starts ripping apart this Nexus. DIABOLUS will be your first grand finalist of the scoring stage, as they take down Misfits 2-1 in very dominating fashion. What a fantastic result, Scoundrel.
I mean, Oaks was just trolling, just testing you, testing the viewers.
Yep.
Testing the viewers with our prediction. Never doubted DIABOLUS for a second. But it spoke testament to their laning phase. We did mention it. They have had, by evidence, over the previous 2 games, the better laning phase in all accounts and purposes. Absolutely steamrolled Misfits, made them look like bronzies. It genuinely felt that way. I know Misfits are an incredible team, but DIABOLUS made it look like child's play.
It felt so frustrating, because there were moments of brilliance. That fight bot lane,
absolutely.
That fight in the bot side jungle, it looked like, for those brief moments, they were the team who won last split. But for the rest of the game, they were just a mess, a complete mess.
It definitely felt like things started to fall apart at the seams. Like, one person died, another person died, just giving away kills that just didn't need to happen.
It's been in the wrong places as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just complete mispositions on the map. And honestly, the win condition I felt that was maybe creeping through was trying to find these late game team fights with those super scaling composition that they did have on their side. But you know, with the 10k gold lead, it's so difficult to get back from that, and especially in this current meta, comebacks are just even harder to make happen.
I mean, this is just classic DIABOLUS play. It's a game book that they haven't changed whatsoever in any of their games. Instant dive down onto the top side of the map.
I feel like you after having now seen 5 games of that in a row,
yeah, you have to
expect
pick something that's safe in the early game, is what I'd say. But you know, props to DIABOLUS. They are obviously the team who came out victorious in the end, even after a bit of a turnaround in game 1.
Right.
They stuck to their game plan, essentially. We win early, let's win early, and try and snowball from there. And you can see how they improved with regards to their objective control. They got much better at playing around this Baron compared to that game 1, what obviously did get stolen away.
I mean, when you get punished that hard for a Baron steal, you kind of realize that this is not a team that you want that to happen again, and then you just shore up everything, you know. Sometimes it's just a hard reality check for the old DIABOLUS.
Yeah, the one thing with the Misfits composition that maybe we didn't touch on enough was that it was risky. It's a risky composition to run, absolutely. I mean, Yasuo mid, it's one of those feast or famine moments. You know,
it's moments like this. It looks good.
Yeah, I mean, looks great here. That was a great setup. It was only 4 members of. I mean, Camille, who was one of the super fed members, the Flaxus had a really good game. So it was obviously ended up being almost a 5 versus 4 situation, but a great capitalization, a great turnaround despite the gold disadvantage that they have. But that was a very specific setup that you know, you have to walk into that time and time again, and you'll be knocking yourself in the head if you're Diabolus and walking into that kind of team fight setup.
That's the thing. For every 4-man knockup that Crossfair finds, that gives you a tiny little window, a tiny way back in the game, and then Diabolus just, you know, go bot lane, get 3 kills, and then they just keep do Baron. It's like, you have to put so much work in to get a slight advantage back in your favor.
The win conditions for Misfits that game was that Yasuo and Vladimir had to be doing well. They could then transition that to a nice mid-game 1-3-1 where their solo laners would do well in a 1v1 scenario. Or you get to the late game and hyperscale.
And just do team fights like that.
Yeah.
When you're not 7k behind.
And neither of those happened.
And we all knew that Vladimir was going to struggle. Camille is a
bad
pretty
matchup for him.
bad matchup. The Cassiopeia potentially worse for the Vladimir as well. So it was always going to be a tough lane for Shikari. When you put that Vladimir up top, then you're basically committing to the idea that you know Diabolus are just going to dive him time and time again.
It was a nice draft, I have to say, from Diabolus to say that, okay, right, that's going to be Vladimir. We expect that Vladimir to be top. We have 2 good picks into Vladimir here, so that whichever lane the Vladimir actually ends up transitioning to, because Yasuo could have gone top as well, whichever lane the Vladimir ends up transitioning to, we're going to do well. Camille does well into Yasuo, so if they put Vladimir mid, it's Vladimir versus Cassio, which a lot of people often called a bit of a skill matchup back in EU Masters, but it's still not a good matchup for Vladimir. You know, he's not going to have an advantage there like he did against the Shen. And Yasuo versus Camille obviously can be a bit swing or hit or miss, but obviously they put the Vladimir top. That's a good matchup for Camille. They abuse that like they have done every single game so far with Flaxus in the top lane. They always put that pressure onto him. So if anything, that was probably just, if I were Misfits and I'm reviewing that, I was like, would we have been better putting Yasuo top? But I feel like the same outcome would have happened.
I mean, Yasuo would have just been dived, and potentially you don't get anything. I feel
like that's the thing is that, yes, some differences could have happened in draft and such, but I feel like it was a fine draft for Misfits in regards that you got Zeph off this roaming mid laner. He's on a Cassiopeia. He shouldn't be as free to roam in that situation and just go top and dive him. And then on the other side of the map, you had a scaling bot lane on the side. Like the Kai'Sa's going to outscale so hard. And even then, you saw in the later team fights, did a lot of work. But you shouldn't be dying 2v2 ever.
Even at this level of play.
You just shouldn't. Especially, this is a team who are supposed to be evenly matched against you. And your bot lane is the more stable part of your team. Your bot lane's been together since you winning last Prem. It's your mid laner who's new. I would understand if the mid laner had some difficulties, but he seemed fine. It was the bot lane, massive issues, and ended up getting outskilled 2v2.
You shouldn't die 2v2 at this level.
And Misfits always said that the one person they could rely on to be their late game carry and, you know, was just going to be there in the late game was Chris Berg. Just didn't have that kind of impact.
Well, they never got there.
They never got there. So. I mean, let's have a look at the bracket, see how things have formed up as Misfits do go down to Diabolus. They will go out in 3rd and 4th position in this first scoring stage, meaning they pick up 1,100 points for themselves. Diabolus will be our first finalist of this scoring stage, who go up against the winner of our next series coming up. It will be Wind and Rain versus M&M Gaming. So make sure you stick around, because we'll be back with that in just a bit.